today on Radio Works World, and the subject I wanted to bring to you today and offer to you is intelligent self-help. And it's an area that we're expanding our brand into, and just so you know that the background of what we already do, we run a training college, training therapists and coaches and NLP practitioners, but we're wanting to expand. We're ready to expand into offering the programs that we teach to a much bigger market and to people that really need self-help at an intelligent level. So this is what this program will be about today, and how self-help can help you to achieve the things you want to in life, and make a difference and bring the greatness within you to the world also. So I'm really pleased to be here. I'm excited to be connecting with Marina again, because it's been too long since we've seen each other. So I'm really, really excited to be here today, and I really hope I can give you something of value.
Well, welcome, Tom. We are so grateful to have you here, and I'm sure our listeners, who are people from different paths of lives, some of them are our age, so they are getting younger. Some of them are very young, and we have few questions, but all depends if we are going to have time at the end to place those questions for them. Otherwise, they could get in touch with you where?
You can contact me directly at info@selfhelpschool.com, or if you look for Self-Help School on Facebook, you can connect with us there. We're on Twitter, we're on Google+. So Self-Help School is where you can contact us, but email, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you find easiest for you.
Brilliant. So tell me, Tom, since last we met at the time, it's a couple of years ago, I think it's 3 years. No, we met 3 years ago, and then last time when we met was about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about your Think program, which I was very, very excited about it. I was so taken by it, and opened my mind into new possibilities. And I remember I read somewhere that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. So what is your new exciting program based on? What you want to achieve, what you want to offer?
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned Think, because Think was really our first stepping into the personal development market, and it's something that we wanted to do for so long, because over the last 25 years we've been training psychotherapists as a general rule, and it felt a little bit limited. We wanted to help so many more people with the techniques and the methods and approaches that we were teaching other people to help other people with. And so we sat down and said, how is the best way we can do this? Because you see, Marina, what we didn't want to do was simply put out another program out there that gave people help, but was limited in a way. And we've got between us, Sandra and I. Sandra's the co-founder of Self-Help School as well, and our bigger brand. We've got between us sort of 50 years of experience in educating people in psychological well-being. And we didn't want to put out another program that just said to people, you know what, you need to stop doing that and just think differently, because the market's flooded with this, and people are more intelligent than that. So we really wanted to put together something that addressed on a very deep level the areas that we found in the last sort of 25, 30 years that people struggle with, but probably they struggle to name that within them. And so we came up with these 5 areas that formed the Think process. The Think solution actually is what it's called, which addressed the issues of time. People struggle with time. They sometimes want to find a hope, and they need to get in touch with their identity and their neurology and really have a sense of knowing. And all of that put together form the think process. So it's great you brought it up, because I know that you loved it when you was there. And from that, we ran a few different programs. The next one was called Power on Purpose, because we looked at other areas that people were struggling with, and that the potential and the outcome and wisdom and experience and relationships and responsibility and standing up for themselves and getting out there and sharing their story. And we got to the stage where we thought, you know what, this is what we really love doing. We love training therapists, of course, but we want to get out to a much, much bigger audience, because so many people, so many people need this help. And we want also to help people that can't generally access intelligent and, self-help coming from an educational perspective with an underpinning, so that they can learn what to do and how to help themselves, and not just know what to do, but how to do it. So we thought we need to encompass this and umbrella it in a way. And this is what Self-Help School has come to. And we're so excited about it, because it really is, it's our way of getting out there, giving back to the world. We've got so many programs that we're going to be rolling out. I think you've been on the website already and had a look at just, I think there's 3 up there at the moment. But there's so many programs that we're working on to roll out to help people in so many different areas that, it's an exciting time. And this is why I'm so pleased to be having the opportunity to speak with you today about this.
Wow, Tom, this is so, you got me thinking, this is so exciting. And just happened that we had another set of conversation earlier with somebody from China, and we were talking about assertiveness. And I remember that I wrote down that what Henry Ford said, that thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason why so few engage in it. So to me, it all comes down to going on an autopilot. People don't think. They wake up in the morning, they go work, they come back, they go bed, they wake, and then die. So all that work of yours and Sandra's, you together have a half a century of thinking and experience, which is absolutely amazing, is unheard of. So you join your forces and you created this beautiful, amazing place where our listeners could go and find themselves. They could start listening to themselves. They could learn to listen to each other. They learn to think, and they learn what is available within their own mind. And I'm so grateful you are here, Tom, because I know you've been working really hard on getting some extra degrees, and I can't remember, it's so much you achieved lately that I didn't want to give you any pressure, but you are really needed in on this platform, because there are a lot of people who want to think outside the box, people who want to better themselves, people who want to be more, who want to give more, but they don't know where to start. Yeah. And there is no support. As you well know, we live on a very narrow path when it comes to communication. People are afraid of expressing their dreams. Is as if it's a forbidden path. So we talk, we had a couple of masterminds over dinner together, and I remember we were in Toronto and then in United States, and we are talking about what is available for our audience, and why is a need for people like yourself and Sandra to step up and come forward and welcome these people who don't have a place to turn to. Over to you, Tom.
Yeah. It's so close to our hearts, both Sandra and I, and it's interesting you mentioned about the degrees, because at the moment, as I think I might have mentioned to you recently, that we're just sort of submitting our PhDs, and it's been a really long hard road as you can imagine, getting that done, along with sort of, you know, building the brand and the businesses, and seeing private clients and running groups. But you know, it's what we thrive on. We absolutely thrive on it. And I was doing another interview the other day, and I got around to telling, you know, the interviewer there that one of the things that I really struggled with when I was younger was having hope, because, you know, when you don't know what to do to get the help that you need, you kind of lose hope, you know, and you lose heart, and you don't know who to turn to or what to do. And with the internet now, there's so much out there. It's like, what do I choose? You know, what's the right program, or what's the right book to read, or what's the right CD to listen to? And a lot of it, I hate to say, a lot of it is not really good enough, and it's because it's not coming from a base of an educational perspective. And that's what we bring, and that's why I feel we're really different at Self-Help School, and that's what I think people need. You know, in society, in a day and age where people are able to educate themselves, you know, much easier than they were in the past. People are more educated, and they see something and they know whether it's of any worth or not. They know if it's going to help them, and if it's not, they move on. And we don't want that. We want people to find something and stick with it and get the growth they need. And, you know, as I said, hope is such an important part of life, and it's a big part of my story, as to what brought me into this field, actually, Marina.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm not sure. I've shared this a few times. I shared it the other day, and it was such a big part of my development and where things changed for me. You know, I'd been a therapist for, you know, 2 or 3 years, and I really sort of dived in there and got involved in that world very, very early on. And somehow I managed to get myself invited to lecture at a conference in St. Petersburg in Russia, and it was the late 90s, and Russia was a very different place then. And so I found myself being picked up from the airport and driven through this country road, which was terrifying. I had no idea where I was going, or indeed what I'd find at the other end. But eventually, when I arrived there, I was sort of dropped off at this huge, great Tsar's castle. It was in the most incredible place. It was run down and dilapidated, and there was this huge, great wooden door, and as I knocked on the door, this big chunk of concrete fell down and nearly killed me. And I thought, what am I doing here? And the door opened and squeaked open, like a scene from the Munsters, or, you know, some old program like that. And I walked in, and I'm not joking, Marina, there were 2 clowns looking at me. And I thought, this is really surreal, you know. I thought, have I woken up? Is this a dream or something? And one of the clowns leant over and said to me, "What are you doing here, son?" And I honestly thought, you know what? I don't know. And that's what came out. I said, you know what? I don't know. And I looked at this guy, and next to him, the other clown leant over and said, "Well, we got a week, so I guess we better find out." And that was the first time I met Patch Adams. And I don't know if you've heard of Patch Adams, but he had a film based on his work. And I spent a week sort of lecturing and working with Patch Adams, and he taught me something that was missing at the time. And I realized the importance of it. And that was to have a sense of hope. I don't know if you know Patch Adams, but he runs a hospital in the United States called the Gessenheit Institute. And his whole ethos is about giving people hope. And that's what he works with people that are ill and dying in his hospital, because it's something that really brings human beings alive. And when I felt it from him, I made a pledge at that time in my life that I wanted to pass it on. Because, you know, none of the knowledge that I have is mine. I'm just a conduit. You know, people thankfully pass it on to me, and I want to pass it on to others. And that's exactly the reason Sandra does what she does, and that's why I do what we do. And I'm just thankful that we came together and can offer it to people that, you know, like that are watching this show right now.
Wow. Wow. You definitely have your heart in the right place. And I know how both yourself and Sandra, how passionate you are about your work and about delivering results and creating better life choices for your clients and for your friends, not only for your clients. And you are giving with such limitless passion that I always wonder what makes you so strong, you know, because giving in your profession mostly goes one way. Of course, people are grateful, but it's a very draining talent. So you have to give it all. There are no middle grounds. So how do you cope? How do you put back the energy you are giving out?
Yeah, this is just such a wonderful question, Marina, and I'm really pleased you've asked it, because it is something that I see a lot of people struggle with that are doing what we do, and that's that they do it for a while and then they end up completely sort of worn out and drained, and I watched them, you know, over a period of time, sort of getting lower and lower and lower. And very early on, I sort of felt that myself. And I think the answer is actually in what you've just said about how much you give and what you expect back. I think the answer is in that if you give everything and expect nothing back, then you don't feel drained in the same ways as if you give and expect something in return. Because you see, in the work that we do, so much of what we give, if we expect something in return, we're going to be disappointed, because that's not how things work. It's about giving freely, and when you give freely, you see the rewards in the work that we do. And for me, you know, I've just seen another client today that we've been working together for a while, and you know, she got to the end of our work, and she was ready to go out there and take on the world. And the pleasure that I get from that, it still, after 25 years, brings a tear to my eye. And it reminds me every day that it's not a job, it's not a vocation, it's not something it's not running a company. It's a calling, and when you've got the calling, you need to answer it. Um, I'm reading a beautiful book at the moment. It's called The Great Work of Your Life, and it talks about Dharma, and how until you find your place in life, you're never going to quite feel like you fit. And so part of the work of life is to find out what you're meant to be here doing and what your purpose is. And I think once you've found it and once you're living it, then energy just comes through you like a conduit, and it's never ending. I hope that's sort of
Yes, absolutely. But Tom, thank you. Very grateful for this, and our listeners, I'm sure they are taking notes. Otherwise, they could go to your website and ask again the same questions. I know you won't mind. I
absolutely.
I had many times try to understand what will make myself better, what will bring the best in me, and I learned, I took lots of adult education, different courses, and everybody was saying to me, oh, you have to align your values with your beliefs and your actions. And that was that, and didn't work for me. But when I realized that actually, if I combine those and I align them, all my actions, beliefs, values with my emotions, then I'm okay, then I'm happy, because happiness is not something you can chase, it's not an outside entity. It's not a goal, despite the fact that most people think I want happiness in my life, but I don't have it. So I realized that when I align my values, my actions, and my beliefs with my emotions, everything comes into place.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what is your opinion on the emotional brain capacity to respond to life's demands, and how do you adjust that? How do you control your emotional brain? It's all about how you react to things, like things thrown at you, or what's happening to you or to other people, and that traumatic experiences all around us. And the way you respond to that is through your emotional brain. Am I correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's an absolutely fascinating area. Um, it's actually what the focus of my PhD is about, which is about
Wow,
emotion.
I did not know that.
I know you didn't know it. But my entire study, which I've spent the last 8 years engaged in, has been about the impact of emotion, and specifically in men, because because you've got to focus on something, right? So I focused on young men, and their emotions, and how specifically, to narrow it down even further, they dealt with anger. And you see, it's been something that I've seen over the years, young men struggling with more and more, and I've got a sense that well, I haven't got a sense. I found out that it's got a lot to do with identity and their place in the world, and what it is to be a man. But within this whole study that I've done, I really have got deep into the purpose of emotion and how it impacts us. And it's a very complex thing, you see, because in a sense, with values and beliefs and what we really align ourselves with when we're living a life of integrity, it has a very deep visceral influence, and of course that touches emotion. You see, when you talk about emotion, what you're actually talking about is something that happens at a very deep level, physiologically, um, within the body, that we don't actually know about until it starts to be felt by certain sensations inside us. And then what happens is that we experience those sensations, and we then assign a feeling to those sensations. So something's erupting inside of me and I feel it, and then I decide this is anger, or this is rage, or this is disappointment, or I feel happy. It's not just all bad feelings. So when we're talking about beliefs and values, of course, what's important is that we get to a deep sense of what's happening inside our body and mind, and how we react and respond, and what judgments we place on what happens around us too. Because, two people can experience an identical experience and react in two entirely different ways. And that's because of the judgment they've placed on the feeling that they have. And that, again, it comes back down to the emotion that's happening inside them, the values they carry, the beliefs they have. Of course, it's all linked in together. I very strongly believe that, and it's certainly borne itself out in the focus of my research.
Wow, that was very, very, very powerful. You see, because you wake up in the morning and you have plenty of chances to, get annoyed, get angry. Then that turns into stress, and then, turn into even worse state of mind. Everything affects your state of mind, and that's why I like to live in the sunshine state of mind. So each time I see somebody upset, I'm asking them, so what state do you live in? And I say, what do you mean what state? I say, what state of mind? So yeah, so when we allow those negative emotions coming from outside into our inside, it's as if you are giving your power away. And usually there are little things that they manage to upset you, you know, and I really believe that depression, sadness, anger, anxiety, of course, stress, they all absolutely deteriorate your physical health. And the only asset, I always thought that the main asset somebody could have is not their earthy assets, you know, what they own, like their house, their, I don't know, whatever it is, their plane, their boat, is their mind. That's the only asset nobody can take away from you.
Mm.
Because, you know, there are so many sad moments in humans' lives that you never know when all that you created is going to disappear and you have to start again. But one thing that you could certainly own and make it your own and use it to your best ability is your mind. Over to you, Tom. What do you think mind means to most people?
It's it's very interesting that you talked about mind, and well, earlier we're talking about mood as well, because from what I've seen over the years, when people think about their mind, they think about they think about something inside their head, and they think about their brain. And indeed, what the mind is not something that's encompassed within somebody's head. I I've heard once somebody describe it, and it was a fantastic analogy of, imagine the brain as a light bulb, physical light bulb, and the mind as the light. And I thought it was just such a beautiful way of describing how the mind works. You see, in that, you can see how very pervasive the mind is on the world, and in that, how pervasive others' minds are on ours as well. And that's why we end up getting affected by things, because you see, we're not existing in this body in itself. We're more than that. We're permeating into the world, and the world is permeating into us. And so we're constantly being affected by things because we're not aware of that. We're not aware of how we're connected to the world and how the world is connected to us. And what I've certainly found is that when people start to get an awareness of this connection, and they get an awareness of how their mind is something that is more than just what's inside the front part of their head, they start to get a sense of clarity and of size, and of how big everything is, and their part in it. And it starts to offer something very, very important, I feel, in the search for personal growth and development, self-development, and that's perspective. And so we can talk about the mind and how it sort of is pervasive out in the world and how it's all connected, but it brings us back to perspective of ourselves in the world, and how our moods are impacted through our mind in this way. In the studies that I've and the research that I've done, I've certainly been doing a lot of exploration into the difference between feelings and emotions and mood. And I think mood is something that it sort of permeates out into the world. You know, when you walk into a room and you can sort of feel someone's emotions before they've even said anything, and that's their mood. And we carry these moods with us all the time. When we have more of a perspective of ourselves, we can get more of a sense of the mood we carry, and that has a big impact, I think, on how we experience the world and other people, and how they experience us.
Wow. So, Tom, when you refer to your ability to think, to ask yourself questions, to ask yourself better questions, to listen to other people, they are all abilities that are not encouraged. You know, like usually people won't listen to anyone. If anyone will listen to you, that would be for 3 seconds, and after that they will, you know, go away in their own mind, think, oh, I know what he's talking about, and they never actually listen. I had a client, we had a mastermind 2 weeks ago, and this gentleman was telling me that what he took away from that mastermind was the privilege of being listened to. And I was so taken by that, you know, like, so he was in his 50s and he never felt listened to.
Yeah.
And what do you think about using your own ability to focus on listening to other people? What do you think is that going to change? Is that a good thing? Learning to listen is I know it's an art. Listening is an art, and we live in a very rapid world. Nobody finds the time anymore to listen to themselves or to listen to other people. So what is the role of listening within the self-help intelligence?
Yeah. It's funny. It's something I was only just discussing the other day with a group that I was working with, and we were talking about the difference between hearing and listening. And I think what happens a lot in the world is that people hear us, but they don't listen. And you know, that goes two ways. And I was reminded of a phrase that someone said to me, you know, sort of a couple of weeks ago, when I said something to them, and they said, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying." Now, although they'd said, "I hear what you're saying," I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel that they'd listened to me, or I didn't feel indeed heard. And it's because they're two very different functions. You can hear somebody, but to listen to somebody, you have to have an investment into them. You have to have an investment of yourself into the process. There's a very wonderful a Chinese character. I'll have to dig it out and send it to you. Or I'll put it up on the website actually, at selfhelpschool.com. But I think it describes this just perfectly. And the Chinese character for the phrase to listen, it has, you know, Chinese characters, they make up elements of the experience. And to listen in this Chinese character doesn't just require your ears, but it requires your ears, it requires your eyes, it requires your mind, it requires your heart, it requires your body. And this Chinese character makes up all of these different parts, which I think beautifully describes the difference between listening and hearing. It really sums it up so well for me. But what I think is so important is that to listen to someone requires you to actually invest yourself into what they're saying. And of course, you know, it goes even further than that, because so much of the time we listen to what people are saying, but what indeed we need to be listening to is what they're not saying, the unconscious communication. And once you start listening to that, your level of communication just, you know, it goes through the roof. Because when you listen to someone and you listen to what they're not saying and you respond to that, then they feel heard like they have never felt heard before. And it's a rare thing to happen out there, because as you say, life is very fast and very, very quick, and there's so much noise and there's so many things put in front of us, you know, in this world. But you know what? It doesn't take more than a second to listen, when you get good at doing it, to what's being said, to what's being not said, the unconscious communication, to listening to people's body language. And it's just practice, and it's something that you can acquire. It's a skill you can learn. We call it attentive listening. But what of course you can't learn is how to invest yourself into another person. that requires a giving, and that requires a choice and a decision to actually do that. I think that's the difference.
Yes, it's a very profound is a very profound thought that actually you are able to listen to somebody, really listen to somebody, and sometimes even to yourself, because it's such a simple act. But what requires is for you to be there, to be right now, be here and be present. It's such a almost like a gift of life. That's why it's called the present. But I think quite rightly, you said that people have to learn. So it takes a lot of practice. So in all this madness happening around you, you could find that place in your mind where you actually could listen, and doesn't matter is a sound or somebody's voice or somebody's story, and your willingness to sit there and listen, I think makes the whole difference. Because even, you know, if you think of respect, when listening to other people, there is no other higher form of respect than actually listening. And the same goes for self-respect. So it's always like, I have these thoughts and I'm not listening to them. They might be great thoughts. And in your opinion, what is the importance of being mindful?
When he was talking about sort of the speed of the world and how busy it is, it was going through my mind that I think one of the reasons that people struggle to listen is because of the speed of the world, and because they don't know what to do to make that happen. And so I think being mindful, and more importantly learning mindfulness techniques, is probably the fastest way to be able to internally stop in a busy world, and to tune in to others, and to tune into yourself first, to then enable you to tune into others. And there are so many really, really quick mindfulness techniques. You know, just a couple. I was teaching a group the other day, was simply about taking 60 seconds where you simply stopped, focused on a clock, and you focused on the tick of each second just for 1 minute. You'll be surprised how many people really struggle with keeping their mind focused for 1 single minute on one single task. And it's because of how evolution has worked, and how much we've got going on around us. But there are simple exercises. You know, that's one. Another one is simply taking an object. You know, you can take a glass of water and just focus on it for 1 minute to the exclusion of anything else. And there are more. There are so many different ways of doing it. You can build up and you can build up. You know, I've written a book, Marina, called The Book on Back Pain, because, you know, helping people get over their physical pain and find ways to manage it and get to grips with it is something that I'm really interested in. So I wrote a book on it.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, that's one of my books anyway.
Yeah, how many books you wrote?
I've got 4 now.
Wow.
Sandra's got the same, and we're going to be writing a book based on our PhD. So my next book is going to be about emotion and
Wow,
anger.
I can't wait. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sandra's is going to be about women and their bodies, because that's been the focus of her research.
Yes.
But in the book on back pain, I teach a whole chapter on mindfulness techniques, and because it's absolutely essential. It's really hard to focus on techniques and methods of helping ourselves until we can at first stop, go inside, and just switch off the busyness of the world, until you can do that, learning anything else, it can be very difficult. So, it's the best place to start. And, in that book, I get people to focus, for example, on the pain inside them, wherever it may be, because you can use it for any pain. But I get them to focus on that to the exclusion of everything else. And it has the bizarre effect of helping them feel the pain less. I won't go into why, because it's a whole book, but
Yes.
there's some really easy techniques that can be used. In fact, what I'll do, Marina, is I'll put up those techniques. I'll put up that chapter on the website so your viewers can access it.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that, Tom. I am very grateful for that. I was about to ask where our listener could find or reach out for those informations, because to me it's more about finding your own way, being compassionate and kind to yourself so you could be compassionate and kind to others. I don't know how it works for other people, but for me, being mindful helped me survive the most traumatic moments, and helped me fix, or not fix, but elevate certain dimensions of my life. Because I have this habit of, in the middle of everything, when everybody is going with 100 miles an hour, I stop. Not on the fast lane, but I stop and I look inside, and I check my mental state. I connect with my own thoughts, and then I'm thinking, well, it's nobody to tell my mind what to do next. It's just me. So I better start building some, elevate some great thoughts, and guide them towards whatever I'm going, instead of being angry, instead of feeling that I'm a victim and it's not fair, and all those hard to handle type of emotions. Mindfulness for me, it's what brings my mind into my heart. It what makes that journey, the 18-inch journey. And I'm so grateful for learning that from you, and from everything I can learn. I'm hungry to know more. So I'm really grateful that you are offering your what you know, and your expertise on mindfulness. I think that this is a massive gift for our listeners, and thank you, our listeners, for asking for, because I got these messages right now. So you answer, perhaps their thought reach yours and your mind, and you offer it already. Thank you so much for that, Tom.
Oh, it's my real pleasure. As I said to you, we just want to help as many people as we can, and I'll put the chapter up there, and I really I hope I've structured it in a way that people can start in a very simple way and build up until they get more and more mindful of what's happening within them and happening within the world. And it can have such a profound impact. It's very funny. Over the years, I've sort of studied many different approaches, and I'm thinking sort of specifically psychologically and psychotherapeutically. And most of them have been based on the Western way of thinking, and it's been very funny because I spent some time in China. I was teaching in China, and giving therapy and helping people in China, in Sichuan University in Chengdu. It's the most beautiful country. I adore China, and the people are they're absolutely.
I totally agree. Yes.
The people are just the friendliest people I've ever met. It was a stunning experience, and I can't wait to go back. But the funniest thing is that they've been talking about mindfulness for thousands of years and using it, and only in the last sort of 10-20 years has a Western psychology been saying how amazing mindfulness is and how we can benefit from it. And
The irony, yes.
oh, it was so funny when I started to listen to, these top academics and top psychotherapists talking about, we should integrate mindfulness into psychotherapy. And I thought, well, it's about time. So I would, it's my pleasure to put it up on the site and so your viewers can access it. And I really hope that it helps them.
So I don't know if we still have time, but
I have all the time you would like.
There's a question keep popping out on my inbox. So the question is, if you could explain what NLP is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to ask the question
Okay.
like 12 times now. So
NLP is what is called neuro-linguistic programming. I'm sure you've heard of this, Marina.
I done a course. I got a certification
great.
myself,
So you know what it is.
Yes.
But to sum it up is it's not that easy because it's a very big model. It's basically it's not a new thing. It's been around since the 70s. It was developed or founded by a guy called Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And they studied a linguist, a mathematician, and a family systems therapist, and lots of other very successful people. They studied a top psychotherapist of the time called Fritz Perls, and they studied a top hypnotherapist at the time, Milton Erickson, and many other people. And they pull together the successful communication patterns that they used in their work with other people. And they poured, if you like, the cream of the crop. And they made a structure of how we communicate. And they presented it through neuro-linguistic programming. And it's an absolutely incredible way of getting to grips with how people communicate, how they assimilate information through their senses, because when we experience something, we experience it through what we see and what we hear and what we feel, and also what we how we taste and how we smell and experience. This is why you hear people say, I've got a bad taste in my mouth, because our senses are the way that we assimilate information and make meaning of it internally. So NLP basically looks at how that works, how we use language to communicate, and it pulls that whole sort of our structure of being and communication apart, and it's very powerful, used in the right way.
It's to me, it's amazing how little we know about ourselves. Each individual got, a place where the magic happens, in your mind. And life is an adventure of the mind for me. And just amazing how we have all these abilities, but we don't even mention them. For example, humans are the only creatures, funny as they are, that they can control their thoughts. So in effect, you can, plant or kill your thoughts, or put the seeding. You can seed in your mind great thoughts, and you can take out of your mind negative thoughts, which are very destructive. So to me, life cannot function outside NLP. It's on daily basis, not just on stage or lecturing in front of students or writing an essay. Is what gives you the magic power to control your thoughts. So we've been talking about this at Radio Works on a weekly basis, sometimes on more often than that, and our listeners are keep asking the same questions. And I'm so grateful you answered it the right way, because the way you put it, it's giving a different level of clarity. Thank you very much for this, Tom. So, Tom, so tell me, what's exciting in your life? I know a lot of things are very exciting, and I know you can't stop smiling because recently a little princess landed on this world, and you are the happiest granddad ever. So what is exciting right now, and what's happening next in your life?
Yeah. I am very, very, very. I can't stop grinning. My daughter just gave birth 2 days ago to her.
Congratulations.
Yeah, to her third child. So I have two grandsons, two daughters, and two grandsons, and so now I have a granddaughter. And of course, I got a soft spot for girls. I've had two daughters, and of course, my grandsons, when they came along, and I never realized how much energy boys have in relation to girls. I should do. I was one, but wow, they can be really wearing out. So I'm just interested to sort of see the difference. But of course, every time I look at her, I can't stop grinning. I think that's natural. I think I'm allowed to do that. So I'm enjoying my family, and Sandra and I sort of we're really enjoying getting to the end of the journey of our PhDs, and we're starting to sort of look at, so what should we do then? What should we do now? And it's the most wonderful place, Marina, because we've got to the stage where we've decided we can do anything we want. We can learn anything we want. We can do anything we want. Self-help school and the college and the training and the therapy and the coaching we do, it's in our hearts. It's part of who we are, and we'll always do it. But we want to experience other things as well. I've got a saxophone that's been sitting in my front room for years, and decided I'm going to learn to play the saxophone because, as I said to you, I think a week or so ago, if you don't know you can't do something, you don't know that you can't do it, right? So I'm going to just start playing the saxophone and see what happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, lots of people will come to your house, that's for sure.
Yeah, I want to learn a couple of languages as well, because I feel I need to do that. It's something that's important to me. I was thinking about Chinese, but this is a big, tall order.
It's not, I thought so, but then I started, and I realized that actually is very logic. It's one of the languages that it's so logic. It's you can't get wrong. It's just the accents, you have to. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to. But all you have to know that if I can, for sure you can. So not only that you create this platform where people could access self-help, but they can develop their ability to adapt to change. This is your goal right now. It is to help people understand their own ability to adapt to change, if I got this right.
Absolutely, yes. This is our mission. This is exactly what, this is exactly where we're going. Our sort of our vision for self-help school is huge. We've been training therapists for a long time, but of course you can do so much of that, and only so many people want to train at that anyway. But there are millions of people that want help, and we know we can help them, and we know that the programs that we can build and offer them will help, and we've been seeing the results from it already. So the vision is to build something absolutely huge, and on the self-help school to have sort of a whole database of courses that people can come in and they can find what they need.
Wow, that's
one of the things that's very important to us is that people can come into self-help school, they can look around, they can try, like they can have a trial of a program and try the first part, and and see if it works for them. And if it doesn't, they can find something else. And so that's where we're going. And of course, people need help with so many different things. And one of the things we love building is programs. I mean, Sandra and I, we're educationalists. That's what we love doing. We love learning and we love teaching. So that's where we're headed. And there's nothing that should get in our way, really.
Yeah, it's like giving wings to those people who they don't have the courage to dream, because you see, it's very hard to talk with your family sometimes about your dreams. They will feel that it's not part of the family routine, and sometimes meeting total strangers and getting to know them, you get to know yourself.
Yeah.
And this is why I see your platform, your program as a universal platform for a mind, for the adventure of your mind. And that's all we have. All we have is right now. I'm so grateful for this moment we are sharing together and sharing with our listeners. And I'm very grateful to our listeners who listen in. And I will make sure I will have a link for the regulars who couldn't be here right now. But I wanted to ask you, Tom. So, if, for instance, you'll just in a world, in an ideal world, you'll have the time to come back to Radio Works, let's say once a week. What would be the first lesson? Where would you start?
Well, I think if I go back to what I said earlier, mindfulness would be an ideal way to get started. Because one of the things that's important is to be able to stop and look at what's there. So mindfulness is a good place to start. But also Marina, I think one thing that would be of great value is self-belief. And I see this as such a problem. Even though we want to help people, this doesn't mean that they believe they can be helped. And this is such a sad thing, and it's something I really want to address. So self-belief and helping people with the awareness that they can do what they want, and if they follow a certain program, it will help them. And when they realize that one little thing can change, then this gives them confidence to know that something else can change, and that just grows and gets bigger. So yeah, stopping, being able to be mindful and influencing a belief that you can have a life not being affected by things that have affected you, and have a life where you can really believe that what's possible can be achieved.
Wow, this is so beautiful. I'm not quite sure if I remember this well, but one of the classics said 3,000 years ago that the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. And I think you hold the fire, and I'm really grateful for sharing with us your passion. And I have a quote for today's episode, so hopefully you'll be back to us. We hope that one day you'll say, I have all the time in the world and I can share more on the Radio Works world. So Ronald Reagan said that there are no great limits to growth because there are no limits of human intelligence, imaginations, and wonder. Thank you so much, Tom. From both of us is stay open-minded. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Marina. It's my absolute pleasure. I love speaking with you, and to your viewers, we're here to help. Please contact us. Join our community. It is a self-help community, and that means that you have to do something and connect with us. And when you do, we will do everything in our power to help you achieve what you what you really want to in life. And it is possible. And I would be delighted to be back soon to be with you, Marina, on Radio Works, because again, it's in our heart, it's what we do, and it's our dharma.
Thank you so much. From both of us is goodbye.
Bye bye.